Hi, so today I am going to be talking about my project-based learning and what I have learned from chapters 3 through 5. From chapter 3, here are some key points that I got from it is that you need to picture your destination for the project instead of just like going along with it. You should have a good idea of what you want your project to look like based on the information that you're given. Find different ways to get information to students, like grasp their attention, allow them to come up with ideas in class. With certain topics, you should be able to choose topics that are from in today's world, I would say. So like topics that are happening now. For instance, AI within classrooms, ideas, and not just all on one topic, and allow each student or groups to have their own topics as well instead of like repeating topics. That way there is more ideas and less of the same things getting talked about over and over again. Always find a good way to make it fun and enjoyable for the students to want to complete this project. A clear outline and be interesting to the students instead of boring. So some examples that I do have on the side is that of students that aren't listening and are listening. Right here, as you can see, there is students not listening. She's teaching, trying to tell them math problem, but if like use your imagination, it could be like that her telling the outline or something, and the students are not paying attention to thinking about other things other than what they are supposed to be learning. And then also on the right is right here where she has the students' attention to the board, making sure that they're paying attention and that they're enjoying what they are learning instead of just being bored. Them choose like an interesting topic instead of just like a topic you give them. Some things that my teachers or my professors do is that you find a topic, bring it to them, and examples of like a good project. So I did like a science fair and like good ones and a bad one. So the good one is that this Mandela effect one, and the pictures are a little blurry, but in here she has all the hypothesis, her topic, everything, her experiment from step 1 through the end, and her conclusion on why everything happens in the Mandela effect, which is pretty crazy. And then, so she's being very creative because you can see, like, obviously the board doesn't match the Mandela effect, but she got creative with it to make it pop. So that way people were more interested in it and would read what was on there. And down here, we have another science project that was poorly done. As you can tell, not as creative as the first one. It is very just plain. As you can tell, it's just a whiteboard with drawing of squigglies on it. Misspelled words like science. And just looked like it was rushed more actual thought put into it. I would like to say something that this one is missing is their hypothesis, because it was introduction, method, and then straight into their experiment, and then conclusion, when it's supposed to be like introduction, hypothesis, the method they're going to use, experiment, I think, say they have a second experiment, another experiment, and then a conclusion on what their prediction, and then their conclusion. So that way it's more thought out. Or they ask you to. But also don't just give them like straight feedback. Guide them with the feedback that can help them improve their project from where they're at now. Your students have access to all the tools that they may need. For example, like digital tools like the internet, pictures or anything. and less to rely on someone and relying on themselves on the information that they need to find and put together. So right here I see I have a picture of a teacher surrounding a group. They are doing a group project, it looks like, putting together the different states. Different continents or countries, it looks like, actually. And the teacher, as you can tell, she's not doing anything. She's just standing there giving some feedback, maybe some supportive feedback that will help them guide through the whole project itself. But here are some quick tips to support learning. When being a teacher, encourage your students to reflect on the progress that they have already, and see if they're happy with what they have. But also, teachers themselves should always be there to help and not lecture the students on what they're doing wrong or critique them and telling them, like, this shouldn't be this. You should just let them go and they can reflect on what they think is wrong. But in reality, nothing's wrong. It's always a learning experience, and never just this is wrong. So for example, say they ask a question and it's not the correct answer, but you don't tell them, oh, it's wrong. You tell them, okay. You tell them, like, okay, that can be part of it, but what else also can be aligned with this? I don't know. I give up. They can't do this. That their mistake is bad. When in reality, it's not. So on the side right here, as I said, teacher giving help, but also like, from what I see is that they're doing something together and that she's giving help, but she's also not just like being mean about giving help. She's more of like telling them, like, okay, I don't think it's gonna be like that, because if, like, show them the different possibilities. And then right here we have the growth mindset, like I was saying. Like, something that is important is that get them out of the habit of saying, I don't know, I give up, I made a mistake, I'm not good at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at this, I'm not good, it's good enough. Oh, and then what they should be saying is that, like, how can I figure this out? This will just take more effort. What can I learn from this? I'll try my best. How can I push myself? Is this my best? Instead of just saying, oh, I'm good. This is perfectly fine. Should always have a person assigned a role. That way there is less of people doing one thing than the other, or someone doing nothing. Also, tell the students the importance of being communicative with their group, because say you do something and you don't know if it goes with it, and you just put it down, and it has nothing to do with the topic you guys are learning about or telling about, and you go to present it, and you get asked a question on that, and know your group mates are like, oh, I don't know who put that, then it's going to be on you in the end, because you can get docked points for not being very communicative. But also just being more communicative when there's conflict, because there's different strategies, so you can give strategies to students that have conflict within the groups as well. And then lastly, I think it's better to assign groups to students. That way there's no unfairness. So, like, a group of friends and the people that are left out that don't have anybody, it's better to assign the groups with. Here are some tips for effective project groups. Like I said before, make sure that every student is contributing to the project. That way it's not just one person doing everything and the other person doing nothing. And lastly, encourage them to get real life experience instead of just in person, or instead of just online data, because in person experience and like data is very relevant to now for what the topic is happening. That way it can show how, I would say, more like, not encouraged, but more involved they are with the topic they have chosen, instead of just copying and pasting things. Like I So in conclusion, from each of the chapters, there's a very important takeaway that should be used in classrooms daily. Chapter 3, make sure that the project has the relevance of topics provided, and make sure that the projects have an important learning goal. Don't just don't just let them have a topic that has no point to it, really. Like making cookies isn't like a good point, or like a good topic. Something that's nowadays, like in this century. Chapter 4 is all about support, but providing support when needed, never trying to correct. More like a feedback, and then encourage all students to have a growth mindset in classrooms. And lastly, in chapter 5, it's more about groups and how to be coordinated. So